thought I'd take a minute here and just open up with a little bit of a dialogue on what I'm going to go through here today, and a very simple series of sketches. For example, I've done a lot of work in the past for you with maybe some speed forms and escort fighters and shape studies and the like, but I thought I'd go back and maybe change gears here today and get us some really lucid, fast ballpoint, or pardon me, Sharpie pen sketches. Just dealing with getting into a subject matter I think is really intriguing, and that dealing with concept sketches or ideation studies for sound bulb sound systems. Sound bulbs, really interesting concept. What they really are is like a speaker shape, like a traditional light bulb with all shapes, everything from the spotlight to a typical light bulb that we use in the home, abuse and so forth. And it's really interesting. It has a standard universal thread that you can kind of plug into a socket of any sort with a light bulb that'll accept it. And then lastly, it's not part of point number 3, has an embedded receiver in it that, for example, that connects to a transmitter in any digital device. It's like an iPod or an iPhone or a PC, etc. So it's interesting. And I think the real reason behind the concept that came about, or the idea that came about, is because of the clutter involved in maybe office desks and home and so forth. All you do is just plug this thing into a typical socket and then connect it to a transmitting device, for example, the digital device that takes care of itself. So I'm going to go through some little walkthroughs here, and we'll set something up. First of all, I want to explain what the breakup is. For example, let's start up here and just kind of do this. Let's do a little sketch that shows you, for example, this is where we are. We'll go down through the bulb. Let's get a center line on this guy. Just going to put a little bit of shape together. We're going to go through some real loose little sketches here. Just get this started. And there's a bail right there, and then we'll come right back in a little threaded system down below. So I'm going to start there. We're going to come up, and I'll just kind of change gears for a bit here to show you where the alignment is, and we'll come back and the elements that are involved in this thing. So we'll just kind of pick up a nice projection and go vertical with it, and then come off that center line, set that up. So there's a kind of a little quick breakdown of the certain forms we're dealing with. And the first thing is this little transmitter. That kind of sits in here, and we'll just kind of do the following. This goes here, and then there. So I might go through it. Maybe have some little device system in it here. So that becomes a transmitter or the receiver that goes inside the shell here in that aspect of it. And above that, you've got the element, for example, of the shroud itself, where it can kind of come back in and maybe have some sort of appearance like so. And that's just a really simple cap of some sort that goes over the top of this piece here. And that also will fit in. And on top of that, you could put, for example, a variety of decorative pieces on top of that. You might have that kind of a shell, or it might have a little bit of a section change or a concept of some sort. It kind of fills out what the actual bulb or the element's going to look like. So you can have a little bit of a detail on top of this thing, like a texture change, some sort. Again, same sort of light source process here, just kind of breaking this thing down. And again, it's that to that to that, and then let's put a little bit of detail in this thing too. So it comes back in. Pardon me, I turn this around just a bit. There's a little bit of a dish in this, in the bulb itself. And that gives you a little bit of shadow to work with in there. Just nice little loose little sketches here. Well, there might be an on-off switch in there too that looks like this. So you kind of go back to that and just kind of fill this in with a little bit of this. That'll be the actual system that'll let you know that that thing is on and firing. And last but not least, it's that assembly to that assembly. And there's a sequence that you're after right there. That's how the whole thing begins to come together. Very interesting concept, how you kind of go through the idea of saving space and being a lot more judicious in terms of putting together organized space inside the room or the home that you're dealing with. And that's just going to tell this in there. That little transceiver will sit right in there. And that's where she nests, right in there. That whole thing just drops in. It's 1 to 2 to 3, decorative cap on top of that. So it'll take, as I said in the intro here, it'll take a variety of different bulbs, anything from a standard light bulb to a spotlight of some sort. So it's got to go through some little elevation studies here. Just got to put this whole process together. Just some nice little simple little sketches here. Off the center line, work this thing in, nice and quick. And again, the little threaded portion down below. And again, just maybe a simple series of patterns. I'm going to go through some texture changes and show you what this thing might begin to look like. You kind of put a little horseshoe in this thing here, put a little bit of a sliver up on top. I'm going to break that just a bit. More of a decorative cap in it. And again, the on-off switch, or the little pressure system down below as you thread that thing in. And that can have a little bit of a nice little bit of concept as work as well. You can go back in here and just kind of fill in the blanks with a little bit of detail work by just putting a bit of a texture change in this thing. Just kind of staining that in just a bit. Again, I can kind of go this by the wayside here. This could be a little bit of a light bar situation here. Or it could be a color accent change up on top, and then a little situation down below here. And then just very quickly, coming back in once that's established, come back in just a little bit of a line work here, just kind of break up the form. And there she is. Nice little study. Just looking at concept studies here, or laying in. And then again, maybe it's a simple pattern texture across the top of the bulb itself. And so on. A little bit of shadow underneath this guy. Just kind of tighten that up a bit. That'd be a typical standard bulb here, just maybe a spot of some sort. Just nice and loose. So notice I'm not really spending a lot of time, a lot of detail here. Just getting into some really interesting concept work here. Let's kind of do this. Same thing again in elevation. A little bit of crown in this thing. And same basic overall shape. Come down to the threaded area. Up on top here. Just kind of go this route with it. Open that up. Open that up. Again, a different on-off switch or assembly of some sort. A little bit of line drawing through it. That's the cap itself. So let's put a little bit of a separation on top of that guy, just to kind of break it open just a touch. And same thing again, coming back in with a little bit of a change of pace here. Just enough tint in this guy to take me into a little bit of a shape change. And again, on-off switch, just a little more color here. And again, maybe this is just got a different dome system up on top here. It just kind of comes back in and just slides over the top of this thing. A little bit of texture change. And again, this could have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then into that, a little bit of a pattern change for the speaker itself. And again, a couple of variations there on just that bulb process. And then come back in again, let's do something here that's going to move it into a little bit of perspective. Let's do this. Come back in through here. Pardon me as I come across here. Again, get that center line to strike in here. Put that bulb shape in place. Open that up where the threading area is here. And again, looking at just, maybe we break it up by doing that. Just a nice little change of pace across that form itself. Then again, back to that little on-off switch. Come back in through here. This might have a little bit of a recess up on top as well. Just changing the character here. That might drop in. That can come over. There might be a little bit of an accent color change here. Come back into this. Maybe this has a little bit of that going on. A little bit of light color up on top. Some indication switch there. And again, same process, just real lightly putting in a graphic pattern for the speaker pattern. And just tone that back just a bit. Let's come back in and draw through it. Come back in again, one. Nice little speaker grill set of some sort. Again, that would be the sound system coming out of that little bulb process there. Just real quick little series of studies here, looking at exploring the ideation cycle. How do you break that bulb shape up with, for example, like speaker graphics and color and so forth and surface? So let's do this. The bulb portion itself coming into that. Maybe it's an offset. Comes in like so. Maybe that offset's just a simple little ribbon. And again, you've got this engagement switch here before you thread it in. This might just have a little bit of recess underneath it. I can come around here, maybe a little bit of a pattern change here up on top, give a little more distinction. Pardon me as I turn the pad here. Just to give it a little bit more character. A little bit of change of pace there. There, and then we'll come back in here and maybe a simple little ribbon coming up for the actual pattern itself, where the speaker graphic is, and run that through. Then again, a little bit of color change in here. Maybe it's a little bit of this on the inside, and again on off there. So let's come back in again and just pick up a nice little core here of speaker pattern. I'll be very deliberate here. I'm just going through some very simple recess bulb studies. And it's a very intriguing process how the whole thing begins to function. It's kind of neat how what it does is save space and it's a bit of utilitarian. Nice to connect with a device that you can play music from without getting up and trying to change the dial and all that stuff with your device. So let's kind of go back here and do this. And using that same, this is almost like a spot lamp process here. Coming back into this. A little bit of threading on the end of that guy. And those real loose sketches. Ideation. What about, how can we break this form up to begin to look at very intriguing? Well, maybe it does this too. Maybe it's very radical. Kind of a nice process here. It just does that. And then there's a little core on top here. And again, that little switch system starts in there. Very simple, minimal. Maybe this is a minimal speaker just on the wings. Just changes the texture right in there. All we need, just run it through just a touch. Come back in, a little bit of tone in through here. Up into the base of this guy. And just real quick little marker studies on top of this thing. Just kind of put it all together. Let's do this. Tighten it down a little bit more. Let's do this. A little asymmetrical piece here. A bit of tone down in this guy. And again, indication of lamp on, graphics. Very simple. I mean, look how easy those sketches are coming together, just looking at that form and changing shape and so forth. So that's part of the process here today, about looking at these studies in terms of what's the ideation cycle going to look like when you start to put these guys together. Now let's do one more thing here. Let's just kind of come down here with this. Put an axis through it. Get that same bulb down at the base here. There it is. There's my connection. It's that to that. Again, pardon me. Come back in here, and let's see. Let's change this different view here. Let's kind of take this thing and really sculpt this guy. That speaker is going to look like that. Maybe the switch is over on this side here, the top side of the form itself. That's where it's on and off. It comes into this little bulb down at the base here. That's where the threading device is at the base of that guy. Comes in through here, and then maybe just some little indication here of some texture change. Again, all that can become now speaker. I'm going to change gears here, just to switch a little bit more. That's that. It comes in here, a little bit of color added to it. Let's kind of tighten this down a little bit. Draw through it. Here's my axis. I'm just going to concentrate on just putting a little bit of texture on this guy. Then having a bit of a dot pattern in there, just maybe a little linear piece. It all comes together. Just really fluid ideation sketches, really concentrating on just getting some idea of what that form is going to look like when you begin to break it all down and take it for what it's worth here. Now, that's kind of a spot bulb system. What if we did the same thing with a conventional light bulb? Let's just kind of come back and just go to the round process here. A whole bunch of little sketches that kind of come together here for us. There it is, threaded side right there. Notice I'm really not concentrating on perfection here, just getting an idea down. Get that into place. Maybe it's just a simple speaker system that does this. And again, that little switch is there. And there it is. We come back in, just a little bit of tint in this. Into that. A little bit of tone to it. Get a little bit of that starter button or on-off switch again. A little bit of color added inside that little bulb area. A little more definition in some of the shape here. Let's put an axis in this thing. A little bit of crosshair. And let's put this in place. Again, speaker radiating out of that center core. And again, that could be just a simple gesture like that. That little bulb system could look like so. Interesting. Again, another one. Same elevation. Get that bulb system to work. And again, looking at how to break this thing down. Maybe it's just a nice little simple shape that does this. Moves across. And this lower portion becomes part of the speaker device. Into the form down below. And there it is there. A little bit of color band in this thing. Just kind of change its pace. It's a little bit of color through that. And then into that. Let's kind of tighten this down just a little bit more. Draw through it. Real lucid sketches. Get that pale, just a phrase in there. There it is. And again, same process. Let's come back through here to get that axis to work. And again, we'll place in some speaker graphics. You get the sound bulb to function. And a little bit of tone underneath there. Etc. Back in again here. Gonna connect the dots here with some of these sketches. Put a little of that in place. And there we are. Nice little composition there, just a little family of forms right there. Then we'll come back in again here, and we'll just carry on with some of these sketches. Let's put this into place. Gonna axis down through this thing. Gonna come the other way here. Or the traditional light bulb here we're dealing with now. Not many spot type like these were over here at this end of the page. Come back in again with the graphics on this guy. Maybe this is just a nice little simple parabolic curve that comes out of that form and does this. Again, that on-off switch right through there. Just gotta lay that in place. A little bit of speaker graphics down below. A little bit of shape change there. There it is. Getting that into place. Let me turn this around just a bit. Get that surface to work here, pardon me. Hey, how you doing there, Shadow? Good to see you. How's everything? Got about a 12:30 start, so hopefully, hope all is well with you. And thank you for tuning in here. Looking at just real quick little fast burst sketches, ideation cycles for a neat little trick known as a no, not problem. Good to see you. Hope you had a great weekend. These sketches I started out with the premise of being sound bulbs. These are informational pieces that are kind of unique to the new sound systems, musical systems out in the marketplace now. They were traditional, shaped like a traditional light bulb, but they've got a speaker system assembly in it, and all shapes, for example, spots, conventional bulbs, Christmas lights, and so forth. Bright idea, ha ha ha. Yeah, I hope so. I'm trying to get there. So, but the neat thing about it is they have an embedded receiver in them, such as this little guy right here. Then they go inside that cap itself of the assembly, the base assembly, molded plastic or whatever. They look like a light bulb, but they're actually a molded assembly. Then they come back, they nest in there. Then on top of that, you've got the little graphic pattern. It could be the speaker assembly system, and then a cap and so forth, or a decorative cap. So I've just gone through a really neat looking, yeah, it's like a smart light, that's correct. So I'm going through just a series of ideation sketches. In the toned areas, you see maybe different speaker patterns about once you get that established, how they might look and how they might appear. So I went through some spot assemblies in through here. Now traditional light bulbs, etc. Let's kind of put a radius in there, a little radio pattern in this guy real lightly, and we'll come right down the line and just begin to pick up some things. For example, like 1, 2, with that little dot pattern there represents speaker and how that's going to land in the thing, etc. Just really interesting how those shapes all come together. Put a little bit more tone down in this guy, just kind of blank it up, and there it is. And again, maybe one more pass over with just a little more marker, just kind of cut that down just a bit, and there it is. Back and through here again, same thing, same process. Those are real quick little sketches about how to break those forms up and begin to make it kind of sing a little bit in terms of being a little bit melodic and unique. So let's come back and then just do this. Again, a conventional bulb, center line, the core itself down at the base where it threads into the lamp or the lighting assembly you're dealing with. Now let's just kind of do this. Just kind of break it and go the other way with it. This nice little halo over the top of that thing. Maybe this has a bit of a light band in it as well. This might be a different kind of a texture. We kind of break it up like so. And maybe that has some real solid form into it. Maybe it's just a simple pattern across the top of that. And again, you've got some sort of light assembly here. It's now that's on, and so on. Come back and through here. A little bit of tone up on top here. And then down the back side of the bulb itself. And just a real neat little quick, simple sketches. And then on top of that, I'm just going to draw through it. And let's see, let's go back in through here. Pardon me as I change the axis here. A little rounder. And I'll get that to kind of walk in through here. Section through it. And then just from that, maybe it's a nice, simple little parabolic curve that comes the other way. Maybe this one comes out of here and just does this, kind of streamlines it right into that. And again, the on-off switch could be up on top here. And look how that just kind of all falls together. Nice and easy. Not a lot of effort put into the sketches there. Just looking at really good thumbnail studies, hopefully here, to kind of look at patterns about how to place those shapes together, what they might look like inside an application and so forth. So let's do this. Again, a little bit of tone on this thing. That's that. Take it right on through and bring it right on through. A little marker on top of that to kind of take it into context. This might be the, again, a little, oops, let me turn this over here. There we go. That's maybe a little bit of a switch system here, on and off. And let's go back in through this and just do the same thing. Draw through it and get that pattern's going to fall. Speaker. Very interesting how it all comes together. Let's go back in through here. One more traditional piece here. Bulb connection itself. Let's just crown it like so. Go both ways here. Head on. Little assembly switch here. Kind of set this back just a little bit. Let's got a bit of recess in it. And let's put a little bit of tone in this guy. And a little speaker indication through the center of the unit itself. And a little bit of highlight. And a little bit of color added. Kind of go over the light system itself. There it is there. And we'll come right back in again, right through the axis. Pardon me as I move this over. There we go. Is that better? Comes in. Again, really fluid sketches, looking just at very interesting volumetrics in terms of putting together shape and form. And let's kind of carry on with one more pass here, and we'll kind of go to a different bulb system here. And on off down below. There's a speaker system down through here. Very traditional. Simple cone breakup up on top here. A bit of tone underneath it. There's what we're after. Let's come back in through, just kind of tighten down a little bit more. A little bit of color added. That's that. Well, there's one sheet, just a very simple pass-through of what takes place in putting together some of these sound bulb studies. And again, looking at the assembly process and looking at a series of conventional spot lamps, for example, and into some traditional light bulb itself. Pardon me here. So let's kind of put that one aside, and we'll come up with another plate here. And again, looking at, there's a whole variety of these guys. Let's kind of look at this guy here. There's a typical candle light, or the cone type. Might look like so. It's got that little bulb system at the base of it. Same process works there. You can actually take this guy and just do a very simple round through on it. And there's my on-off switch in this guy. We'll take that same process and come in here. Just a nice little walkthrough on these guys. And we'll take this beauty. That's that little bulb system. That's kind of right down the core here. And just come 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. More that cone type. Just a nice little round shape comes into the bulb assembly at the base. As we did here. Yeah, let's just take advantage of that. Let's come back and change the graphics of that guy. Let's reverse that. Let's get that little switch up on top there. There's the assembly here, color, on-off switch there. Just got to pull that in. A little bit of tone in this. Right down through the shape itself. And come right back in and just pick up a nice little, again, speaker pattern. Again, bulb. Actually laying that thing down and come back in and just kind of scalp this back. Let's just do this. Nice simple parabolic curve. Same basic operation. Again, on-off switch there. Going back into it. Threaded area. There's some little family of shapes here to kind of put it all together for us. And again, let's just kind of lay this in. Go underneath it. And set that up. Add a little bit of that on-off. That's that. And then let's come back in and just pick up a little bit of that Back to the bulb assembly here. Just nice little loose little gestures here. Just ideation studies. Nothing really elaborate here. Just kind of focusing in on some just vast concept sketches about what this guy might look like. Let's kind of tailor this back and do this. Break that down. Put a little bit of shape in this thing. And a little bit of color, and then that little switch up on top here. Let's do this. Let's go a bit of that. A little bit of that into it. And come right back in with that same basic overall formula. A little bit of tone where that speaker grill might sit. Again, the same process here. There we are. These are 4 little concept sketches here of just how to break up that shape and so on. And let's come back in and do this. Still that pear-shaped assembly here. I'm very honest with it. Let's just kind of draw through it. Again, let's put that little switch right about right there. A bit of a color band change in here. Bullet pen, so to speak. Come back in through here. A little bit of bigger assembly where that sits. Throwing that in. Take it through the shape a little bit. There's another variation in that same candle type or bulb. Draw through it again. Speaker. A little bit of this up on top, and a little indication of a little bit of, again, color change inside that deck right about there. So there's another variation in that same basic theme, how to break that form up and really make it kind of a little bit more romantic and less of a, just an actual, just a bulb itself in shape form. So every one of these studies are just really lucid in terms of just looking at what are the possibilities of doing, such as do another one through here. Just got to break this back and go extremely coarse with this thing. Run it through. Get that bulb assembly to work back in. There it is there. Same thing here. Let's just kind of connect the dots here. Just bring those two together. And let's bring this, a little bit of an offset. Again, let's get this form here to read. A bit of marker in it. Run that through. There's my on-off switch, so to speak. A little bit of color added in that guy. And last but not least, let's change the speaker pattern here. Let's go on the diagonal here. Line that through. Really quick studies on just lamp and variation themes and so forth. Now let's kind of go back in here, and probably some pretty good operation too in terms of getting into like a fluorescent of some sort. Let's do this. There I am. There's a fluorescent cap. Kind of tailor-made in a way for this nice little waterfall of a shape like so to come across the top of that lens. There it is there, and then put that little on-off switch right about in there. Once she's plugged in, that's it. Come back in a little bit of color to this thing. Switch. There it is. And again, where that speaker pattern is going to fall. rough that in. Take it right through the actual shape itself. It's going to modify that just a bit. Fluorescent system. There it is right there. Just really kind of very timely. Just putting that all together here. Going to tighten this down. Oh, pardon me just a minute here. Again, speaker pattern up on top here. It's going to give a little bit of guts. Let's run that through just a touch. Pardon me, let's turn the pad just a bit. There it is. Kind of scratch through it here. And little fluorescent pins where they go. And just looking at that basic cylindrical form, how do you do that? You can come up with some really interesting shapes too. Just kind of break that through with that. Again with that. And again, change the character of the personality to this thing with just coming across. Shape distinction in there. Just going to put that aside for a second here. Draw through this beauty. Speaker itself, and there you are. Again, a little switch apparatus down through here. Let's kind of take that through. And again, it's on the vertical. There's a little bit of a vertical system here. You turn it sideways a little bit, straighten it up. Maybe that's a nice, honest little round as well. Just go right through the center of this guy. And take that tint and run that in there. A little bit of a value change in this guy. That's that. Again, assembly switch here. And there it is. And again, maybe a radial pattern here. This is going to come right down the line here with speaker pattern. So on. Come down the line here. Let's see what we got here. One more time. Let's just kind of come back to this thing. Shorter version. Same process again. Let's get the sketch to start. Let me move that out of the way. There you go. Is that any better? pin assembly, fluorescent, and maybe it's a double. But then that comes through by doing the following. A bit of tone in it. That's more linear. That'll break the sound up a little bit more. Get this right on through. Yeah, just a variety of little surface changes and shapes here to deal with in terms of putting together this whole sound bulb system, which is a very intriguing process, I think, in terms of putting it all together. Let's kind of tie these two together here. Little vignette. Basic little format. And those two a little bit. A little bit of combination in the actual sketches themselves. Let's kind of put this together too. Let's kind of tie these guys together. Just a little vignette in there. And that's it. And again, a little line weight through these guys. Let's take that through and kind of connect the dots. Nice little composition page here of just some very interesting little bulb studies on how to put together the sound package together. So let me just do this. And there's two, and I thought it'd be kind of nice too to wrap it up here today in this presentation with just a nice little, maybe once we have those bulb systems down, let's go back and look at those guys just for a moment here. Once we have the bulb systems down, it will provide like a little charging station of some sort. So we started the program here today with just a nice series of little thumbnail sketches that look like so. Looking at that basic bulb assembly, how it all comes together, and then looking at certain forms and how to break them up to get the speaker system to work a little bit, how to elevate those guys and put some shape into it as a molded piece. And then these little gray toned areas would be, for example, where the speaker system is, or the muffling side of the whole 9 yards here. So Shadow, are you still there? I hope you are. And I hope this is making some sense here. I just want to go through a real fast series of different media changes here to kind of get the idea down and go very rapidly and not get caught up with a lot of finesse yet, just looking at the basic shapes themselves. So here we are. I'm going to put that aside. So we started there with sketch number 1, then moved to a different bulb assembly. This whole thing is pretty universal in terms of how they've adapted, how they work with like candle types and the actual fluorescent types, tubing type. You can go to the round as well. All works very nicely in terms of putting it all together. So interesting. Hey, the Ballistic Cowboy, how are you? Nice to see you here. I'm glad you're on tuned in here. Let's just see what happens here. Let's go back to this guy and give a bit of a recap. Maybe I've not explained myself. I'm going to go back to last Friday's stream here. Ballistic Cowboy, you asked a question, and correct me if I'm wrong here, please. Do I ever use, for example, do I draw things from, do I preset them? Do I retime them, set them up ahead of the schedule? Or do I just go freewheeling and just start sketching when I begin my stream? Preparing gooseberries for hey, all right. Send me that sounds good. Gooseberries, very cool. Very interesting that your question was very, very timely, and I think I apologize for not responding right away when I saw it last Friday. I ran out of time when I finished up my stream. But to answer your question, no, when I go live here, for example, Ballistic Cowboy, I just sit down and just start drawing in terms of this is what it feels like, this is what I'm going to try to create. I just think it's unfair to kind of set some ideas ahead of the time. It's much more spontaneous. I just kind of free will and just become very lucid within the imagination process to get the whole thing to work. So that's hopefully will answer your question about that and about the prep side. No, it's all live. It just I just lay down the theme and just start sketching. There's really no pre-planning and so forth. Although sometimes in the past when I started with Star Citizen, I did a couple of prelim works for that International Harvester, that plantation system, that spaceship we did, Explorer. But for the most part, it's very intuitive. Here it is. Let's kind of start look at the idea. So very interesting. No, I'm hungry. You, me both. That sounds really good. And again, the other thing, I think I had another question about, do I work with Prismacolor pencil? Yeah, I really do. Like today, I'm working with a Sharpie pen, obviously. But for the most part, I like to work with Prismacolor because they really have a tremendous wax base to them. You can do a lot of soft and sharp with it, and it does not get in the way. So there we are. That was plate number 1. We started there, then went into another variety of bulb systems where this thing can actually work. It's kind of an interesting premise that has an embedded receiver in it, and then you can plug it in any light assembly, like a wall socket, floor lamp, etc. No matter what it takes, they can get that thing to electrify itself. Then you just connect it to a device that has a transmitter in it, and like an iPod, iPhone, and PC, and off you go with sound. It's just a nice way to. I think the last thing it does, it solves a lot of clutter too. A lot of office desks and so forth. They're kind of having, rather than having a large system out there for sound, etc. It kind of really comes in and tunes in to a very simple setup of circumstances for saving space. So that was the second plate, being on some linear tubing systems, fluorescent lighting, the candlelight type, and so forth. It really works in almost every adaptation in the molded part. So the last thing I want to really look at here, what if we could kind of develop a couple of things for like a charging station that might look like the following here. So don't bear with me here. Let's kind of do this. Nice little platform. It's real loose again, lucid sketches. Sharpie pen, take that back, run through the center line, put a little bit of a handle graphic on it or something that would sit down on the actual platform itself. And come right down the pike here with this and with this. And into that, you would have the following. That'll just come in, begin to set up a charging system. Let's say you had a pair that looked like this, bulbs itself. The starter here, starter there. That comes right in. Is that they nest inside this little plate that charges the battery itself. And again, a little bit of shadow underneath this thing, just to kind of give it a little bit of a presence. Ground it. Let's keep it nice and consistent. Same kind of operation here. Show you where the bulb sits and get some of the graphics in there for placement. Hey, Nemo, how are you? Good to see you. A little bit of tone in through this. A bit of tone in already, in here through here. And again, just a little bit of tinting here to kind of let's do this, kind of get that little aspect of color in here. A little bit of this as well. And then we'll come back in and just put a little bit of dot pattern in this thing to give it a speaker character. It's going to tighten this down just a little bit here. Pardon me. There's one setup station. Let's kind of get those in order here. Let's see. How are you? Hey, by the way, Nima, how are you doing? It's good to have you on board here today. And just give you a quick recap here. We're doing a little bit of investigative ideation studies on sound bulb systems. Kind of a nice little process to kind of save space in certain office areas and the like. So I just don't know if you saw these or not, but we started with this page of studies, looking at just some animation on how the whole thing comes together, like a 4-part step with the little transceiver inside that thing. And you thread it in, for example, every given light assembly you want to work with. So those are the first start with a spot type and the traditional bulb itself. Then we went from that elevation into that series of studies into more of a candle type bulb and some of the linear fluorescent systems. So it works pretty universally all the way through. I'm just taking some time here today to go through the whole idea of putting the process together. So, hey, very good. Thanks, Nemo. Good to have you on board here again. So there's one, and there's another guy. Let's just kind of do this. Let's kind of go with the same process here. A little charging station. A little bit of tint in this guy. And a little bit of twofold, a little bit of color added here, a little bit of tint in there, and again, a little bit of charging light right about in there. There's another variation on that same tree, almost like an elevation study of that guy would begin to look like this. It just has a nice little kick down the ground, kick back, and again, offset plate. Bulb itself. And there it is. little elevation study on that stand here, that charging stand. Well, a couple of ways to look at this thing in terms of putting it all together. And now let's just kind of do this. Let's kind of put a little bit of a parabolic curve in this thing. Let's say if we did this. Oh, pardon me. Bit of tint again in this thing. Take it right around the bend, slope that over the top. And again, add a little bit of juice to this thing. It's got a little bit of a colored upper. That's that. There, and there. We'll come back in and put a little bit of detail in this thing. Yeah, last but not least, maybe it's one of these guys. Just firing through some little stands here. When I see those shapes getting more and more organic, I really wonder how some of your designs would look on a body mount, like the Mobi-Glas Microtech, for instance. It's interesting to get prismatic designs on top of something really not prismatic. Well, thank you very much. That's a very kind statement. That would be kind of a fun experiment here. How shapes coming together. It's very interesting how that all, let me read this again, how those shapes getting more and more organic. I really wonder how some of your designs would look on a body mount, like the Mobi-Glas from Microtech. Yeah, it could be a nice, interesting interface to try and work with there. Nemo, excellent observation there. So I'm going to kind of look into that and see what we can do with maybe some little solutions for that, or also some programs for that. Go back in again here. A little bit of tint in this thing. Speaker assembly up on top. A little bit of form down below in this shape. Just enough to kind of give us a little bit more organic form in this guy. Just kind of break it down. There it is. A bit more shape in the thing. Come back in here, a little bit of color. And a little color band in here too. Just kind of break it up. Put a little more definition in this beauty. There it is. It comes around. Back in the shadow. Pardon me as I just got to straighten this up a little bit here. A bit of shadow down. A bit of shadow inside this thing. In the hollow where it nests. And again, definition. Just enough of that to kind of put us into play here. That's going to put a tint on the side of this bulb to just kind of give them more character. So then there's a little vase type thing that this thing can sit in as well. Just add infinitum as we go. Then last but not least, maybe it's a simple process where you've got these two modules that come together like this. Oop, pardon me, I got that. Around this thing, a little bit of shadow. Little staging device here for lighting. Intensity of the actual charge. A little bit of recess here. Take that form in there. And again. Actual bulb assembly. Speaker assembly here. Just got to put a little bit of graphics in this guy. Working the light source. A bit of tone in here. And let's catch these guys too. A little bit of staging light here for intensity of charge. Again, a little bit of this. And again, everything up on top. And I'll put a little bit of texture in this guy. Pardon me, I rotate this guy. There's my axis. Center line. And again, a little more guts in this beauty. Pardon me here. Let's kind of bring this back to square here. Well, there it is, gang. Just a series of little stand studies here for charging systems on this whole package here we're looking at. And again, look, 1960s meets aliens. I love it. No, thanks very much. And it was interesting that you joined forces here today. All of you, for example, who took the time to tune in, really appreciate it. I'm going to wrap it up for the day here. Just kind of put a signature on this beauty. So, in essence, again, this whole bulb system is really unique because it's a bit of a space saver. It's an intriguing little study, and to emit sound and so forth, and the technology involved is pretty stunning and amazing. So, anyway, folks, thanks so much for taking the time to be with me today. I much appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you on Wednesday at 4:30, and my next stream comes up and do a little bit of a different subject matter. We'll keep you tuned in here as we go. But again, once again, thank you so much for the time. Really sincerely appreciate it. And please, if you have any questions about drawing and so forth, and by the way, if Ballistic Cowboy is still there, I hope I really did answer the question about the question that Ballistic Cowboy had was, do you start with do you have a preconceived idea, or do you just kind of go from conceptual side that just keeps creating sketches and developing ideas? There's really no preconceived ideas. When I go live here, every sketch that's done is just right from the gut, and just kind of wing it as we go here and kind of put it all together. So that's what I'm looking forward to maintaining here. Nothing's really scripted. It's just, here's the theme, here's some idea sketches, and we take it from there. So once again, Captain Nemo, thank you for tuning in. Ballistic Cowboy, Shadows, always great to see you. And again, any questions at all about the drawing, if you've got, I'd like me to have answer it, please. Just really interesting to do so. Please join me at jim@drcontrast.com. Any questions, please forward those on. And last but not least, thank you so much again for the time spent today. And again, always remember to never forget to dare to be great. And you can reach my website at www.drcontrast.com. Looking forward to seeing you. Have a great day, folks, and thanks again. All the best.